Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome back to my channel, my lovelies. If you've never been here before, thank you so much for clicking on my video. I am so happy you found me. I do so hope that you will like and subscribe before you leave. Become part of the Mama family. Mama's got your back, at least where makeup's concerned, and definitely when that makeup is cheap. Today is True Love Tuesday. We have quite an epic story to talk about today. We're talking about Orlando Bloom and Katy Perry and everyone in between. Before we get started, a very special, very warm welcome to any of those that are new to my channel. I am so incredibly happy that you are here. If you're an OG and you're just popping back in, thank you so much for being here. I love you so very much. Before we get started, I did do my eye makeup already, guys. It is impossible for me to do my eye makeup and tell you a story at the same time. Just takes way more concentration than I am capable of. So I did make sure to film a TikTok on today's eye look if you are interested. It is very pretty. It is a very warm toned kind of halo cut crease kind of thing. Very pretty. I used the Beauty Bakery Do It For The Gram eyeshadow palette. This is a recent acquisition of mine. Picked it up off of the drop shop. It's a really cute little palette. It said that there were duochromes in here, so that's the reason I picked it up. I picked it up for like $4 or $5. Really not expensive at all. I think it's a nice palette. The formulas in here are really great. I adore the Beauty Bakery eyeshadow formula in general. I think the shimmers are really fantastic as well. I wouldn't really necessarily pick this palette up again just because it is a very shimmer heavy formula or shimmer heavy palette, and I definitely prefer a larger selection of mattes to kind of work off of. But it's pretty. There are a couple of duochromes in here as well that are super pretty. So if you've been eyeing this palette, definitely pick it up if you're into the color story, because it is very pretty. Guys, I will have the tags and the links to all of my other socials, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that good stuff, listed in the description box below, along with a list of everything that I'm going to talk about and use in today's video. I don't usually talk too awful much about the products that I'm using while I tell you guys the story. But of course, if you have any questions about what I used or how I used it, all you have to do is leave me a comment and I will get back to you. And I think with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into the love story. So if you've never been here for True Love Tuesday, I'd like to go into a little bit of backstory on for each of the halves and then go into the love story of the whole. So we really get a nice full rounded out picture of everything that's going on. We're going to start with Mr. Orlando and then we'll work our way into Katy and then the love story of the two. So Orlando Bloom, first off, he was a major heartthrob, especially when I was in high school. I think that's when Lord of the Rings came out and his character as Legolas, it just, y'all, it rocked the boat. Everybody thought he was such a hunk. Now, I never really did get on the Bloom bandwagon. He just kind of came off as greasy to me. And that's not a judgment, just the kind of vibe that I got from him. He just seemed like the kind of person that knew he was attractive. Like, he was attractive and knew it. And it's just a super turnoff for me. But I did have this friend. Her name was Skylar. And she was a Lord of the Rings freaking fanatic. She had pictures and posters of Legolas all over her locker. It was all over her like binders and things. Like she spoke Elvish. Like she was a deep, like she was in it. She was a fan. She talked about Orlando Bloom incessantly. I've never really been a big fan, but I'd love to know how you feel about him in the comments below. So he was born Orlando Jonathan Blanchard Copeland Bloom. What a name. Also, guys, if you see me looking over in this direction, it is because I am looking at my notes. There are quite a few of them for today's video, so I'm going to go ahead and assume we're going to be here for at least an hour. So I hope that you will get comfy, get cozy, relax, settle in, get you a glass of something to drink, get you a big old cup of coffee, a can of Coke. I am indulging in a rare can of soda today. And let's just go ahead and dive in to the love story. But he was born Orlando Jonathan Blanchard Copeland Bloom. That's a big name. On January 13th, 1977. Now, of course, he's best known as his roles in Lord of the Rings as Legolas. He was also Will Turner in Pirates of the Caribbean, which I enjoyed that character a little bit more than Legolas. I just feel like, of course, Legolas was beautiful, but he didn't, there wasn't really much acting there. All he did was just kind of shoot his bow the entire movie. You didn't really hear a ton from him. He definitely acted more in Pirates of the Caribbean, but still, just couldn't really get on his bandwagon. Just not my cup of tea. I think he was also Prince Paris in the movie Troy. I think also that might have been what kind of turned me off, because I really didn't like his character in that movie at all. I just felt like he was a little bit of a weak man. It just kind of turned me off a little bit. Anyway, he's been in a bunch of stuff. Actually has had quite a successful career. So he has one older sister named Samantha. He was born in Canterbury, Kent, and was named after 16th century composer Orlando Gibbons. Fun factoid. Now, when it comes to his parentage, y'all, there's a little bit of drama here. There's just a tiny bit of drama in this section of his life. Now, when he was born, he was led to believe that his mother's husband was his father, a man by the name of Harry Bloom. And of course, that's his dad. That's who's married to his mother. He just assumes that's his parentage, right? So sadly, when his father Harry passed away in 1981, like shortly thereafter, his mother finally admitted that Harry sadly wasn't actually his biological father. Now, his biological father was a man by the name of Colin Stone, and before this time had really never interacted or really known oh my gosh, Orlando at all. After Harry kind of passes on, though, the door kind of opens and he starts to build a relationship with his biological father. And then shortly after Harry passes on, his biological father, Colin, ends up getting custody of him. He becomes his legal guardian. So they start building their relationship from there. His mother is a woman by the name of Sonia Constance Josephine Copeland. And I'm assuming that's where that big long name comes from. Now, when he was young, it was discovered that he was dyslexic. And I have found this to be a pretty common occurrence in a lot of these stars. It seems like they have some kind of learning disability. And because of that, they turn to more creative, artistic outlets because, it's really, really hard in school and it's hard to excel academically. So they turn to extracurriculars and really devote themselves to that. So it was found out that he had dyslexia, and, that was something pretty big he had to overcome. Now, this led his mother to kind of encourage him to join art and drama classes, and he did, and of course, absolutely loved it. He excelled at it and continued to work at it throughout his schoolhood years. So he found great joy and passion in drama, and then in 1993, he moved to London to attend a 2-year course in drama, photography, and sculpture. So he's kind of like an artist as well. His first appearance on screen was in a small role as a rent boy in the 1997 film Wild. Then, 2 days later, get this, 2 days later, 2 days after graduating from Guildhall in 1999, he was offered, he had auditioned, and he was offered the role as Legolas in Lord of the Rings. So Lord of the Rings really was his first big break. Wasn't his first acting role, but it was his first big break. It was what would kind of catapult him to stardom. Now, when it comes to romantic entanglements, you would think that there'd be a very, very long list. There isn't. I mean, there's a few on here, but the list isn't exceptionally long, not like I thought it would be. So he's known as quite a bit of a ladies' man. He's a little bit of a Lothario in Hollywood, and has dated more than his fair share of pretty ladies. He dated Kate Bosworth starting in the spring of 2002. They were pretty serious and dated for about 2 years, but split due to extenuating circumstances. Their scheduling conflicts and things like that. They were both working, trying to build their careers. They just didn't have time for a relationship at that point in time, so they just moved on from each other. And then after that, it was rumored that he had a very short fling with Penelope Cruz. Now, Penelope Cruz is married to Javier Bardem, and I want to do them so badly, but there's I was going to do them for this week's True Love Tuesday, but there's literally no freaking information about them out there at all. There's very, very surface details, surface level little tidbits, but not enough to do an actual story. And I researched, because I really wanted to do them so bad. I love Javier Bardem, and I love Penelope Cruz. I think they're fantastic together. They've been together for a really long time. I just absolutely could not find the information, enough information out there to do a True Love Tuesday on them. But I could do like a little bite-sized True Love Tuesday. Let me know if you'd be interested in something like that. Anyway, it was rumored that he had a short fling with her, but was never substantiated. They were seen leaving clubs together a couple of times back in September of 2006, but nothing really came of it. Then he was linked to his Romeo and Juliet co-star. Her name is Condola Rashad, I think, shortly after he announced his separation from Miranda Kerr in 2013, although it was never publicly confirmed. And then, in a shocking twist, Orlando was one of the men on Lindsay Lohan's infamous list. Like, if you've heard, if you know what I'm talking about, there was a list. There was a list that came out, I want to say in 2014. And it was a list of men that Miss Lohan had entertained throughout her career. And shockingly, Orlando Bloom was on that list, which, you know, kind of caused an uproar. But he's never commented on it. He's never said anything about it. So again, there's really no information about it. But yeah, he was on it. He was on it for sure, which is crazy. I kind of want to look up the list and see who else was on it because, you know, I really hadn't heard anything about it. But I'm so nosy. I just think it's really interesting. Next up, after being, you know, it kind of was realized that he was on Miss Lohan's list, he had a short kind of hookup with Nina Dobrev during Comic-Con in 2014, and the next year was spotted making out with Brazilian model Luisa Moraes in 2015 during a sushi date. Did you know that he had drama with Selena Gomez? I had no idea. This was one of the funnest little tidbits I found about while researching today's story. So apparently he had a very brief kind of like romance. I wouldn't say fling, because it doesn't seem to me like Selena is much of a fling kind of girl, but he was dating Selena Gomez there for a little while, and then they ended up getting into quite a bit of drama involving both of their exes. So for a very short while, Justin Bieber, who is Selena's ex, was kind of linked to Miranda Kerr, who is Orlando's ex, and they had kind of hooked up backstage at I think like at a Victoria's Secret fashion show after party, something like that. And I guess it was rumored that Orlando and Selena got together as a little bit of payback. Well, all of this culminated in an all-out brawl. Like, it actually turned into a fist fight in the middle of a nightclub. Everybody, it was a bunch of drama. Apparently, it was a pretty big deal at the time. Resulted in them getting kind of tossed out on their rears outside of the club, and it was just all in all the gossip rags all over the place. But then after that, that's when he meets Katy Perry, and that's kind of like where we are at this point. As for Miss Katy Perry, y'all, this woman, I'm telling you, she is absolutely fearless. So I feel like we all pretty much know the backstory on Katy Perry. I feel like there's been quite a few different documentaries done on her life before she got famous, things like that. But we're going to go over it. We're just going to kind of skim the surface before we get into her love life, which is her love life, which is the juiciest bit of it all anyway. She was born Catherine Elizabeth Hudson on October 25th, 1984. She adopted the last name Perry from her mother, which was her mother's maiden name, because she had released a couple of albums before, like, she really blew up, and they kind of tanked because they were kind of like, they were like Christian music, and just there wasn't a big market out there for it. She just didn't do really great at it. And also she was just like, she wanted to get away from that, and also just kind of like rebrand herself, rebuild herself. So she actually ended up choosing her mother's maiden name, and I think Katy Perry actually has a better ring to it than Katy Hudson anyway. Her best known songs include I Kissed a Girl, which is the first one I ever heard from her. It was I Kissed a Girl was the song that absolutely catapulted her to rock star famed him, right? So it was I Kissed a Girl. There's also You're Hot and You're Cold. You're hot and you're cold. You're yes and you're that one. There is Teenage Dream, another one of my favorites. California Girls, absolutely epic, iconic firework. Last Friday night. She's got a ton of them. She was born in Santa Barbara, California, to Pentecostal pastor parents Mary Christine and Maurice Keith Hudson. Now, her parents turned to religion after they both experienced hectic youths, wild youths, apparently. And so they made their children pay for their mistakes, basically, because, you know, they went out and they got to experience life, but actually really, really cracked down on their own children because I guess they didn't want their own children to kind of experience the same thing. And of course, this led to Katy having a really, really strict upbringing and her parents being really, like, very, very religious and very, like, just really strict. But it was very difficult for her to get away with anything while she was younger. Now, they spent most of her youth traveling around the country. Her parents actually, you know, they were practicing ministers, pastors. So they went around and they helped people start up churches, things like that. They also had a really, really rough, very, like, they were not rich by any means. Actually, a lot of times the only way that they ate was either with food banks or government assistance. And baby, I believe, I feel you. We have all been there. Like, I feel like if the economy doesn't get better very shortly, I think we're all going to be in that boat, sadly. Food, like, y'all, who else is absolutely stressing about Thanksgiving dinner? Like, I'm trying to sit here and budget and figure out how in the world I'm actually going to make it happen, and I've only got like 20 people to feed. I can't imagine people out there who have got like it's insane. It's insane. Anyway, so after they move around and start up all these churches, they finally settle back down in Santa Barbara, and this is where she kind of finishes out her high school experience, finishes out school, things like that. They struggled financially, only ate with, you know, government assistance, but she received her first guitar on her 13th birthday and began voice lessons as well as dancing lessons and fast-tracked her general education. She actually received her GED when she was 15. So she just kind of wanted to start her life, I think. I think part of it was she wanted to start her life, she wanted to start her career, but also part of it, I believe, is the fact that I think she just wanted to get out of her parents' house, which I believe she said in a couple of different interviews. So, I mean, when you grow up with parents that are that strict, I can only assume, you know, my parents were pretty strict as well, but I can only assume that, you know, you just want to get out of that situation as quickly as possible. And that's what she does. She gets her GED and then she left Dos Pueblos High School during her freshman year. I don't understand why she got her GED and then actually went to high school. I don't get that. But she left her high school during her freshman year to pursue her music career. And she is just, it's like to break into the music business, you just have to be lucky. And she was indeed very, very lucky. She was actually invited to move to Nashville, Tennessee by Steve Thomas and Jennifer Knapp. They're both kind of like old school rockers, and she started recording demos and learning how to write music and learning how to play the guitar, things like that. She really just kind of like was almost like an apprenticeship on how to be a music star. She was like a little sponge, and she was just soaking up as much knowledge as she possibly could. She started writing a ton of music and really kind of like focusing on her sound, trying to find herself. Now, at this point, this is when she releases that Christian record, and it kind of tanks. So they go back to the drawing board and they kind of reformulate, and then she comes out and she releases, I think it was I Kissed a Girl, and that's when she really blew up. And the rest is kind of history. Now, when it comes to this woman's love life, y'all, she has been put through the absolute ringer. I felt so bad for her when I learned some of this stuff. Absolutely insane. So, her first kind of like real boyfriend was Justin York. She dated him when she was 17. He is actually also a musician. He's also the brother of Paramore guitarist Taylor York. After him, she dated Reliant K guitarist Matt Thiessen in 2003. Now, she occasionally appeared on stage with him and his band, and then he made a cameo in her video for Long Shot. But after that, they kind of like, you know, they grew apart and they split up. They split up in 2005 after dating for like 2 years. Now, her next relationship is where like up until this up until this point, her relationships have all been pretty standard, nothing to really write home about. Nice, simple, sweet little love stories, right? Her next relationship really just kind of like explodes on her. So she had her first brush with toxicity when she started dating Sons of Anarchy actor Johnny Lewis. Johnny Lewis. Y'all, this man was absolutely just not good for her. Doesn't seem like he was good for anybody. They dated for a year from 2005 to 2006. Now, this turbulent, kind of drama-filled relationship really, it gave her a lot of material for writing songs. Actually, this relationship is what it inspired. I believe it was The One That Got Away and Circle the Drain. So even just the two titles of those songs kind of let you know where she was at mentally during this relationship and during this point in her life. Now, luckily, she was able to kind of get away from this man and away from his toxicity. And then after they broke up, his life just kind of went from bad to worse. He apparently was struggling with a bunch of addiction issues, things like that, had some mental issues as well because of it. And later on, I believe in 2012, he fell into addiction really, really badly and actually unalived his 81-year-old landlord, and then fell or jumped to his in a police kind of standoff, like he was running from the popo, and somehow toppled from the roof of a building and passed on. But it's just, and of course, Katy was absolutely devastated to hear about this because, there had been love for him. I mean, she wrote a song that entitled The One That Got Away. Like, there was love there. It was just too chaotic. He was very broken and wasn't fixable. And of course, she still had love for him. So she was absolutely devastated when she had kind of heard of his demise. Now, next up, we have Gym Class Heroes kind of frontman Travie McCoy, and this is the first romance that I remember from her. Because I remember her being in that music video. I remember her being with Travie McCoy and thinking they were such an adorable couple. So she started dating him in 2006. Now, they got really, really serious. They weren't together for a super long period of time, but they were very, very much in love. Now, sadly, addiction comes into play in this relationship as well. So she appeared in Travie's music video for Cupid's Chokehold, which we all remember. I actually really, really loved that song. That song was so big back in the day. And she was so cute. They were so cute together in that video. And very soon, like very shortly after they filmed that video, he actually gave her a promise ring. Now, not an engagement ring because they're still really young at this point, but he's basically just kind of committing himself to her. And of course, she accepts it. And their relationship is going really, really great for a good long period of time until her career kind of starts to take off. And Travie, he knows he's not perfect at this point, and she wasn't stupid. She knew what was going on. She knew that he was addicted to something. She could tell when he was kind of messed up and things like that. And she was like, you need to stop. You need to stop. She kind of gave him the ultimatum, right? Not so much not in so many words, but he could definitely tell that she was getting tired. She was getting fed up with it. And when her career started to take off, he kind of lost what little leverage he thought he had in the relationship, because at that point he was kind of like the bigger name in their relationship, right? Everybody knew who he was. Not so much the case for her. But then she releases I Kissed a Girl, and her fame absolutely skyrockets pretty much overnight, and he got very, very insecure very, very quickly. So after that, things just in their relationship just went downhill really quickly. He said in a quote, he says, "I chose drugs over our relationship. The more things started taking off for her, the more I started to doubt my role in her life. There were times when I just felt like I was a stepping stone for her." And, of course, this is not how she felt about it at all whatsoever. Katy is nothing if not a romantic at heart, and I truly believe she loved Travie. And, of course, Travie loved her as well. But things just kind of get in the way. Lines get blurred. You don't really see what's really going on. It's like you can't see the forest for the trees. and his priorities just were all messed up. So eventually she had to break things up, and she actually was like, it was so hard for her to break up with him that she couldn't do it in person. So she actually broke up with this man via email. It's like text before texting was really a thing. She emailed him and was like, we're done. And of course, you know, really, really difficult situation. Shortly after ending things with Travi, Katy met Russell Brand, and things just went from bad to absolutely freaking, like, miserable, right? Russell Brand was probably the worst thing to ever happen to Katy Perry. We're not going to get into it, but all that stuff that's coming out about Mr. Brand, like, obviously he's an absolutely horrible freaking person. I cannot believe that he was in a relationship with Katy. He was awful to her. Their relationship was absolutely awful. They first met in 2008 after Katy filmed a cameo for Russell's movie Get Him to the Greek. Now, I remember that movie. I remember it was Russell Brand and then Jonah Hill, and he was like this rock and roller, whatever. Actually, it's a really great movie. It's a really, really good movie. Super, super funny. But she had a tiny little cameo in that movie, and that is how they met, and it just absolutely not good for her, because of course Russell is incredibly charismatic and incredibly charming when he wants to be, and you know, not a bad looking guy either. So he charms Katy, and they start a relationship. Everything goes pretty quickly as well. For Russell's movie Get Into the Greek, they became romantically involved in 2009 and then got married during a Hindu wedding ceremony in India in October of 2010. So just really quickly, boom, boom, boom. They dated, they got married, and like, I don't think they really took the time to get to know each other. They certainly did not take the time to really get to know each other, because if they had, I feel like Katy would have saved herself a ton of pain. So after they get married, things go okay for a very, very short while, until it didn't last long though. Russell broke things off with Katy through a freaking text message. I guess that's karmic justice, because she broke up with Travi in an email. So I guess, you know, she really can't stay too off. But they were married. It's different. Russell's just a jerk. Anyway, he broke up with her through a text message while she was getting ready for a freaking performance. Like, she's literally sitting backstage getting ready to go out and perform in front of thousands of freaking people. And then all of a sudden, her phone chimes, and she finds out that her freaking, like, life as she knows it is over. I could not imagine the freaking heartbreak. And she said, the text message literally just said, I'm divorcing you. And she said she hasn't spoken to him since. She hasn't said a word to him since that. And she remembers that text message being on December 31st, 2011. Russell was incredibly toxic and abusive to her throughout the entire relationship. He was controlling. He was like mentally and verbally abusive as well. Just really, really horrible. I know there is a ton of information that is coming out about that here recently, especially with everything that's going on with Russell, like all the legal matters he's got going on right now. It's just really coming to the forefront what an awful person he is. He is completely and totally canceled at this point, but I just feel bad for Katy. I feel bad that she had to go through all of that and like experience that. But luckily, I mean, I know it didn't seem like a good thing at the time, but luckily she was able to get away from that situation and move on. After her devastating split from Russell, she actually met yet another guitarist, this time a man by the name of Robert Ackroyd. He is a guitarist for the band Florence and the Machine, which I absolutely adore. I love that band. It was only a very, very short fling, but it really helped her. It was very much a rebound, but it really helped her to kind of like reestablish her self-confidence, her self-worth, things like that. So it definitely was very, very much needed. They were only together for a few months in 2012, and then more drama as she met John Mayer. And this is another one that just absolutely freaking broke her heart. And she just seems to me like at this point, she can't win for losing. Like, she cannot find a good guy to save her hiney, and I feel so freaking bad for her. So she gets with John. Their relationship was full of ups and downs. It was, again, very toxic. It was very just like tumultuous, up and down, hot and cold, things like that. They first linked up in 2012, but split later that summer, then rekindled things in the following October, and even attended the Grammys together. Now, they broke up again in March of 2013, then hooked back up 3 months later. They recorded Who You Love together for John's Paradise Valley album, and then after they recorded the song together, it was like they were done. Like there was nothing left like holding them together, and they were just like, also John couldn't keep it in his pants. He is a prolific philanderer. I really want to do a True Love Tuesday on John Mayer, but there's really no love story there. He is very much a love them and leave them kind of guy, but I would love to do a story on just who all he's been with in Hollywood, because like his list of past paramours is absolutely, it's epic. So let me know if you'd like to hear that one as well. But they finally break up and call it quits for good in February of 2014 after 2 years of dating on and off. After splitting with John, Katy had a situationship kind of with Diplo that didn't last very long at all. They were together at Coachella in 2014 and kind of seen canoodling during the Amazing Spider-Man 2 premiere, but then nothing really came of that. And then she met Mr. Orlando. Now, before we talk about Orlando and Katy, I feel like we kind of have to touch just a little bit on Orlando and Miranda. Now, Miranda is Orlando Bloom's first wife. She is the first love of his life and the mother to one of his children, his first child. Now, they met, they fell in love. I'm not going to go into like super big specifics, but they met and kind of like hit it off. Of course, Miranda was very hesitant to go out with this man in the first place. She just had never really pictured herself dating a movie star. She knew that dating movie stars and athletes came with a lot of drama that she just wasn't down for. But Orlando was very persistent, ended up getting her number, and they ended up going out. Now, they dated for, or I want to say they were together for around 3 years, give or take, but they ended up having a child together. Miranda Kerr is truly a spectacular woman. She's an Australian-born supermodel. She is the first Australian Victoria's Secret angel. She was the first woman to be photographed naked and pregnant on the cover of Australian Vogue. Like, she has done a lot of firsts. She has her own skincare line. Like, she's kind of fantastic. But her and Orlando have a son together, a little boy named Flynn. And, you know, they got together, they had the baby, and pretty soon after they had the baby, things just kind of fell apart, and they broke up. Now, the thing about the whole situation is that they broke up, and it was very amicable. I think they both were kind of done at that point, and both just kind of wanted to be out of the relationship. They both just knew that they just weren't going to work out. So they broke up, kind of went their own separate ways. They both ended up remarrying. Miranda ended up remarrying I think the co-founder of Snapchat, who is like truly a billionaire. So she is in tall cotton. She is absolutely living the life. She went on to have 2 more boys with her next husband. They are still together to this day. So Miranda, very happy. But she has a really healthy, very happy co-parenting relationship with Orlando, and via, marriage, Katy Perry as well. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there, because actually Miranda and Katy are pretty good friends. I wouldn't say they're besties, but they definitely are close, and they definitely do have a relationship. Especially publicly, like they vacation together and things like that. I mean, Katy helps co-parent Flynn. I mean, they co-parent together. They have a relationship. So the two of them are friends. So even though there is just a little bit of, not necessarily drama, but even though there could be bad blood between Miranda, Katy, and Orlando, there definitely isn't. There's no bad blood at all. They are a very healthy co-parenting trio. Now, when it comes to Katy Perry and Orlando Bloom, I think their love story is super cute. Actually, kind of pretty unexpected, honestly. Orlando and Katy first met at a benefit for the Children's Defense Fund in April of 2013. So this was a good long while ago. They were both in relationships at the time, and really there hadn't really been any like sparks flying or anything like that. They just kind of like knew of each other at that point, kind of, and like just kind of met each other in passing, but nothing really ever came of it. At the time, Orlando was in the process of divorcing Miranda, and then Katy was with John at that point. About 3 years later, though, fate thrust them together yet again. This time he did it at I think it was at the, what was it? At the Golden Globes. So they're at this party, the Golden Globes, right? And they're kind of sitting and talking and doing the whole award thing. And it was sponsored by In-N-Out Burger that year. In-N-Out was the one that did kind of like the food. So at each table, there are kind of like these piles of In-N-Out burgers. And I guess each table has its own like allotment of In-N-Out burgers. And here comes Orlando, and he is walking past Katy's table, and he just kind of like swoops in and grabs one of her In-N-Out burgers, and she's like, huh. So she starts to call this guy out. She's like, I don't care, I don't know, who do you think you are, like that's me. And then she sees him, and then she's like, oh, and she instantly goes into little girl kind of blushing tongue-tied, just frenzy mode. She's like, oh yeah, you can have it, yeah, I hope you enjoy it, completely and totally just backs down instantly. She is struck by his charms and how incredibly attractive she thought he was. She remembers saying, oh my god, he's hot. Like just instant animalistic attraction to this man. And of course, when you're attracted to somebody, and you want there to be at least a chance of something nice happening, you're not going to sit there and screech at them, right? So she's like, yeah, take it, enjoy it, right? The night goes on, because this happens at a point where, the night is still pretty young. So they're actually at the Golden Globes party, right? So the night wears on, and it gets a little bit later, and they kind of transition from the Golden Globes into the Golden Globes after party. And by chance, she actually ends up coming across Orlando again. And of course, their interaction earlier, she kind of goes up to him, and she's being all coy, and she's being all sassy. She goes, how are them onions treating you, right? Because I guess I've never had In-N-Out. It's not a thing here. I've always wanted to try it, but it's not a thing here. So she's like, how are those onions treating you? And he kind of looks at her, and he was like, oh, because she's kind of calling him out while not calling him out, right? So he's like, oh, I like her. He says to her, he was like, I like you. And that is when they kind of like, they strike up a rapport, right? And that's where everything freaking starts from. Now, they started off as friends, and very quickly kind of realized that a platonic relationship wasn't going to work for either of them. So very quickly after that, just kind of jumped in headfirst into a relationship, like a full-blown relationship. And in the beginning, I think Orlando was just a little bit traumatized from his divorce. Maybe not even traumatized. I'm not even sure that traumatized is the right word for that. But I think he was definitely hesitant. He was definitely hesitant to jump into another relationship, and this caused quite a problems, because in the beginning their relationship was quite tumultuous. Quickly moved on to more, and by May 2016 they had confirmed their relationship while at the Cannes Film Festival. Their relationship was by no means like smooth sailing at all. Within 10 months of making their relationship public, they released a joint statement announcing that they were taking some respectful and loving time apart. Like, we've heard this same exact statement made by absolutely every single couple that breaks apart in Hollywood. They all say, oh, we continue to love each other and blah 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 blah, we just don't want to be together anymore. Now, I think the whole reason that they split at this point in time was because Orlando was having some commitment issues. I think also he was being a little bit of a turd and cheating. Like, I think he was having trouble keeping it in his pants and he just basically wanted to go out and do his own thing. So Katy's like, whatever, we're done. She's already been through this, right? She's already been through, because Russell, again, cheated on her, basically from the moment they started dating. So she was not going to continue and get cheated on, things like that. She was done. Like, if you didn't want to be with her at that point, you didn't need to be with her. So they separate. Now, this separation does not last very long at all. Just 6 months later, in August of 2017, they were spotted out together again in public, but they didn't confirm their relationship for quite a while after that. And I think they were just kind of like testing the waters, seeing if they could actually make it work together and seeing if they could actually commit to each other. And I think this was Katy seeing if Orlando was actually serious about the relationship and seeing if he was actually able he was capable of committing to her and being, what she wanted and needed at that point in time. Yeah, they did not confirm they were back together until May of 2018. So they took a good long while to really get to know each other again and really figure out what was going on in their relationship. They took 9 months to just enjoy being together and figure out if this was something that they could do reasonably. Turns out it definitely was. And then very, very shortly thereafter, actually on Valentine's Day in 2019, after 3 years of kind of on and off of them being together, Orlando proposed to Katy during a helicopter ride. And y'all, the way that this man proposed is so sweet and so wonderful. Like, it really kind of drives home to me that, yeah, he really does love this woman for sure. So they had met earlier in the evening. They had met up for dinner. So Katy, when she has time off and like doesn't have to be on stage and performing, things like that, she just kind of lets go. And one of her favorite things in the world to kind of like cheat with is pasta. She is an absolute pasta lover. So Orlando is like, okay, babe, well, let's meet up and have supper somewhere. She's like, okay. So, of course, Orlando suggests a really fantastic Italian spot. So she's like, okay, I'll just meet you there. So they meet up at the restaurant, and she gets there and immediately notices that Orlando's a little bit dressed up. He is usually running around in a pair of jeans, t-shirt, and some sneakers. Instead, he's rocking the beard, not really putting a ton of time into his appearance. She shows up for dinner, though. This man is clean shaven, he's looking good, he's smelling good, and not only that, but he's got dress shoes on. She's like, what's going on? She's like, she instantly knows. You know how women just know? She just instantly knows that something is going on. So they go in, they have supper, they have a beautiful meal together, and after the meal, Orlando's like, I have a surprise for you. She's like, what's going on? So obviously the surprise is a helicopter ride. And of course he is showing her scenic views of the city. And mid-flight, like during dead center during this helicopter ride, he kind of pulls out this box out of his pocket and he proposes to her. He gets down on one knee and proposes to her. And of course, like a lot of times men won't propose until they actually, like, they already know the answer. And I'm pretty sure this man already knew the answer. So he proposes to her, and of course, she says yes. It's an ecstatic, emphatic yes. And they get engaged. Now, when the helicopter lands, she still has no idea what's going on. So the helicopter lands on this strange rooftop. She's like, where are we? Well, where are we? Well, Orlando takes her hand and leads her down this flight of stairs and into this room. And when they enter the room, it's like, surprise! All of her friends, all of their family are there, as well as like this room is literally crushed. There are so many flowers in this room. She said there are more flowers in that one room than she has seen together in her entire life. Apparently, he had planned this surprise engagement party for them. And of course, they partied and danced the night away. And it is one of her most beautiful, most cherished memories. In March of 2020, they announced they were expecting a baby. They actually did a gender reveal in conjunction to one of her videos. Super cute. They ended up having a little girl together. They named her Daisy Dove. And since then, they've basically just been planning their wedding after they announced, their baby, things like that. COVID was going on, so they have not gotten actually married yet, but they are still together. They're still going strong, happy as ever, and they have just basically great lives. Katy is very much a co-parent to Orlando's first child with Miranda. They co-parent all the time. They are basically just two happy couples that live life fairly close together because of the children. But all in all, just a really wonderful turnout for everybody involved. Miranda is happy, Katy's happy, Orlando's happy. It's just kind of wonderful. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's love story. I really enjoyed telling it. This is the finished look. Do we like it? Do we love it? Let me know in the comments below. Guys, I love you so very much. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me today. It means more to me than you will ever know. As always, no filters, no fancy lighting. It is just me sitting in front of my camera telling you guys an epic love story, hoping you guys are enjoying what I'm doing. And until next time, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and remember, you're important. Bye.